This story comes from a late-night submission. The title was only one sentence. That 18-year-old boy was assaulted. At 18, Jay went to a nightclub with his friends. He met an older woman. She smiled at him, and he felt seen. Later, she took him back to her place. What he didn't expect was that her boyfriend was also there. That night, Jay was robbed, beaten, and raped. It lasted for hours. He said, "If I hadn't escaped, I might already be dead." But what was even more cruel was this: that woman might have gotten pregnant, possibly carrying his child. A child he would never know, never meet, never hold. This was the first possibility of fatherhood in his life. Arriving in the darkest possible way, that night destroyed him. For the next 20 years, Jay barely lived. He became someone afraid to go outside. Someone who locked himself in his room. Someone who spent every day in games, darkness, and silence. It wasn't that he never tried to get out. It was that he couldn't. Every time he tried to step outside, that night came back. Every time he saw people, that night came back. Every time a woman smiled at him, that night came back. His body grew to 38 years old. But his heart remained trapped at 18, in that night where everything was taken from him. In his 30s, Jay began trying to save himself. He started working. Started going outside. Started living like a normal person. Then he went to see a therapist. He said, "I missed love. I missed having a family. I will never have children." The therapist looked at him and said, "Why not? Why wouldn't that still be possible?" Jay said that at the time, he felt that sentence was hope. Looking back now, he feels it was a lie. He tried to build a dating profile. Tried to make himself look attractive. Tried to smile, to approach, to sell himself. The result was zero. Not very little. None. Jay is a 42-year-old man with no romantic experience. His only sexual experiences fall into two categories: paid or being raped as a minor. When he said this, his tone was calm. But beneath that calm, I heard a vast emptiness. This week, the final straw came. A young woman was out running. Jay is a runner too. He respects people who run. He simply gave her a polite smile. She smiled back, but not kindly. It was the kind of smile that says, "What do you think you're doing?" "You're ridiculous," he said. In that moment, I suddenly realized I'm no longer that 18-year-old who had everything taken away. I'm a 42-year-old man who looks like a creep. He said, "Now I understand. My window has closed. Not maybe closed, closed." Jay said honestly, "I'm not unattractive. I know that. Because older women are interested in me." A neighbor in her 50s comes over every time he sets up his telescope, talking about goddess energy and going to the park together. A 50-year-old colleague, stunningly beautiful, always initiates conversations with him. But he later found out she's about to become a grandmother. There's also a 42-year-old old friend who keeps inviting him on vacations. But she doesn't want children. Ever. Jay said, "If I end up with any of them, I will never become a father. It's not that no one wants him. It's that what he wants isn't in the people who want him." Jay said that when he was young, his only life goal was this: to marry a woman he loved and have 4 children. He had even thought of their names. A son named Logan, because of Wolverine. A daughter named Victoria, because of his favorite Spice Girls member. Now he is 42. Those children named Logan or Victoria will never exist. He said, "When I die, no one will mourn me." But then he paused and added, "Maybe there's one child. Maybe there's a biological child of mine out there. They just will never know I exist. I may have become a father because I was raped. I don't know if you can hear how much pain is inside that sentence. He didn't become a father through love. He became one, possibly through something taken from him. That's not hope. That's the cruelest kind of irony. You might ask, isn't it just a girl laughing? Is it really that serious? It is, because that wasn't just a smile. It was a verdict from society. That young woman's smile said, "You don't belong here. You shouldn't have desires. You don't deserve to be seen. You are dangerous. You are ridiculous." Jay spent 20 years rebuilding himself. He left his room. He found a job. He bought a car and an apartment. He tried to live like a normal person, but that smile told him, no matter how hard you try, you're still marked. That smile told him, your time is up. Jay said, "I shouldn't have believed that therapist. I should have told them to get lost and gone back to my room to play games." Do you think the therapist was wrong? The therapist gave him hope. Was that wrong? I want to say this. The therapist wasn't wrong. But the therapist was also wrong. Not wrong because no therapist should ever tell someone your future is over. That would be unprofessional and cruel. But also wrong because the therapist didn't tell Jay one thing: hope has a cost. When you start hoping again, you also start facing disappointment, rejection, and shame again. The price Jay paid for hope was being shattered all over again. There's something I want to share as an observation. The most heartbreaking part of Jay's story is not the violence. It's this: he has never truly had control over his own narrative. At 18, that woman and her boyfriend took away his control over his own body. Then time took away his control over his life. Then that young woman's mocking smile took away his control over his dignity. He has always been in someone else's hands. Defined, mocked, rejected. Pitied. Not once has it been his choice. Even his desire to become a father may have been shaped by violence, a possible child that exists, but not by his choosing. In Jay's life, there is almost no such thing as agency, only passive survival. So to those of you listening to this story, I want to ask a question. When a person's life window truly seems closed? When you want to be a father but time has passed? When you want love but no one offers it? When you work hard but are still mocked at that point? Which is harder? Which is braver, to keep hoping or to give up hope? I don't know the answer. But I want to say this. Jay, if you're listening, or if the person behind this story is listening, you are not the one who was laughed at. You are the one who, after 20 years, still chose to walk out of that room. That girl who laughed at you won't remember that day. But you will remember every step you've taken. About that possible child, if that child truly exists, they would now be about 24 years old. That child doesn't know your name. Doesn't know you were an 18-year-old boy who was hurt. Doesn't know it took you over 20 years to learn how to walk out of your room again. Doesn't know you bought a telescope to look at the stars. Doesn't know you love Wolverine and the Spice Girls. But what if they did? What if they knew their father was not a perpetrator, but a victim, a survivor, someone who spent decades getting back up, building a life, buying a car and a home? What if they knew you would name them Logan because you hoped they would be like Wolverine, someone who can stand up no matter how many times they're broken? What if they knew you wanted to name a daughter Victoria because you wanted her to be the one shining at the center of the stage? I don't know the answer. But I do know this: your existence is not the result of that rape. Your existence is the result of you choosing, every single day, to stay alive. Jay, you are for to. You say the window is closed. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. But I want to tell you one thing. Wolverine didn't save the world when he was young. He did it after being broken again and still standing up. You say you admire Logan, but you already are him. You were stripped of everything. You were broken. It took you decades just to learn how to walk again. You're still in pain. But you're still here. You're still telling your story. You're still crying. That alone is more courage than most people show in an entire lifetime. That's all for tonight's story. If you, too, have a life that was broken and slowly pieced back together, share it in the comments. We are not remembered because we succeeded. We are remembered because we never gave up. Good night. This story is adapted from a real submission. Personal details have been anonymized. If you or someone you know is facing a similar situation, please reach out to a support hotline or seek professional counseling.